Yeah, we got a party.
My name is Tyrone Dennis, Tyrone. Last name Dennis, Dennis.
Good afternoon. Former investigator Dennis, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. Would you please tell the court and the parties here where it is that you currently work?
I'm currently the Director of School Safety for Rockwood School District in St. Louis, Missouri.
What are your responsibilities as the Director of School Safety for the Rockwood School District?
I report directly to our superintendent. I'm over 32 schools. I supervise 17 police officers, safety measures for the entire district, keeping students safe.
Okay. And what does providing safety requirements for the school district entail?
Intruder safety, training.
He worked at the school too? Bro, red flag. Leave a comment if you think that's out of the ordinary.
Physical safety for the actual buildings, supervising the school resource officers to make sure that they are keeping the school safe in their roles every day.
How long have you worked there?
I'm in my 4th year.
Prior to working with the Rockwood School District, were you employed by the City of Atlanta Police Department?
I was.
What was the last position that you held with the City of Atlanta Police Department?
I was a detective in our gang targeted enforcement unit. I also served with the ATF for almost 6.5 years.
Okay. So let's start with the gang targeted enforcement unit. Would you explain to the court and the parties here what that is?
I joined the gang unit in 2013. My role was to monitor, document, and prosecute gang cases. It was my responsibility to know gang trends, to know those participating in the unit.
So let's start with the gang targeted enforcement unit. Would you explain to the court and the parties here what that is?
I joined the gang unit in 2013. My role was to monitor, document, and prosecute gang cases. It was my responsibility to know gang trends, to know those participating in criminal activity associated with gangs.
And you mentioned the ATF, you're being a member of the ATF task force. Tell the court about that.
I basically served as a task force officer with the ATF, so basically similar to a special agent, but I wasn't physically sworn in, or I was, how can I put it?
You were trained to find RICO, and you retired before you found him. That's crazy. That's crazy, bro. You had a whole career looking for RICO. See, you was trained to look for crime by gangs, which normally gangs are more than 3 people, which turns into a RICO. And you never successfully prosecuted any RICOs? What?
It was APD, but I also was deputized as a special agent with the ATF as well.
And when we're speaking ATF, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms?
Yes.
With the ATF as a task force agent, what was your main focus?
Gangs and guns.
Okay. How long did you serve as an investigator with the City of Atlanta Police Department?
From 2011 till my retirement date of August 10th of 20.
Prior to 2011, and was that in June 2011?
Say that again? Yes.
Prior to 2011, where did you work within the police department?
I was a patrol officer. I worked for Zone 5 for 6.5 years. I was a beat officer in the old 4th Ward Boulevard area.
As a beat officer, did you have any opportunity to interact with the community?
Every day.
Yo, some of these boys grew up in the 4th Ward.
Prior to joining the Atlanta Police Department?
Ho. So while these boys was teenagers, you was working in some of these boys. Hey, yo, let me know in the chat if 4th Ward is actually a part of where some of these boys that's in this RICO, well, some of the opposition is from.
What did you do?
Went to college.
And what was your major?
I majored in criminal justice and sociology.
Right. And did you receive a bachelor's of science in criminal justice and in sociology?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And where did you go to school?
University of North Alabama.
All right. I'm going to show you what has been marked as State's Exhibit 2, a copy of which has been provided to the defense, as well as what I have marked as State's Exhibit 2B, as in Bravo. And I will give a copy of 2B to a representative for the defense, Mr. Steele, who is in closest proximity to me. May I approach, Your Honor? Showing you 2 and 2B. Do you recognize State's Exhibits 2 and 2B?
Yes.
What is State's
My CV?
Is that a fair and accurate copy of your CV that you provided to the state?
Yes.
Do you see any material alterations?
No.
And what is State's Exhibit 2B?
I actually pulled my gang training from my post so that it wasn't overwhelming. I basically provided add-on to my CV, which was my gang training and cases that I was sworn in as a gang expert previously.
Is that a fair and accurate copy of the training that you provided to the state?
Yes.
Your Honor, the state tenders State's Exhibits 2 and 2B as evidence.
Objection to 2 or 2B for purpose of the motion?
Don't have any objection to 2. I don't think you've been served 2B before. So I'd like an opportunity to see it, but I object to it since we haven't been provided previously.
And just for the record, when did you provide that to the state?
Today.
That's not our fault. That's
Okay, all right. I understand, sir. How long is 2B?
It is double spaced and 3 pages long. It consists of 1.5 pages of, well, actually 1 page of the training, and then the second and the third page are just the cases that he has testified in.
All right, Mr. Harvey, I'll admit it over your objection on 2 and 2B. Okay, all right.
I'm going to continue to circulate it.
Yes, sir. If the state has another copy, that might be helpful. If you could arrange to get a copy or have it emailed, that would be great.
Yes. Ms. Laura has sent it. Thank you, Judge. We'll have that sent as I speak.
Continue, Ray.
Investigator Dennis, would you tell the court what training that you underwent to become a police officer with the Atlanta Police Department?
I went through the police academy. I started with the Atlanta Police September 7th, 2004. I was a recruit until December of 2004. Went to the academy in December of 2004, sworn in April 25th of 2005.
And what types of classes did you have to undergo at the academy?
Basic law, EVOC training to drive the patrol vehicle, firearms, pistols, PT test, all type of general training, mental evaluations, all types of stuff.
When you became a part of the targeted enforcement or gang unit, was there another name as well later on, criminal intelligence unit?
Yes.
When you became a part of that unit with the Atlanta Police Department, had you received any specialized training in the area of criminal street gangs?
Not before that time, no.
Prior to becoming an investigator with the gang unit, had you had any exposure to gang members and alleged gang members during your time with the City of Atlanta Police Department?
Yes.
Would you explain or describe that for the court?
My beat assignment, which was Boulevard, old Fourth Ward, it's almost was like the free zone for gang.
So 30 Deep, he worked 6 years in the zone as a beat officer on the ground in the area where 30 Deep was at. Well, originated. But Cleveland Avenue, was it allowed to join 30 Deep? Or some of the people that wound up being YSL, the record label, were from other areas?
Members through Bedford Pines, Section 8 housing was provided for the females, and where the females go, usually the guys went. And so pretty much most gang members had some type of relationship with a female in that area.
Boo!
Over the course of being a...
Do you notice he separated himself from what the males do with females? You ain't notice how he was on the outside talking about that dynamic right there? That was pretty weird, wasn't it? Wasn't it?
Officer, you would see graffiti, have interaction with different...
Graffiti? Where?
Individuals, and...
Have interaction with different individuals.
With different individuals that either live there or sometimes we have domestic disputes, different things like that. And a lot of the stuff that I learned about gangs, I didn't just learn when I became a police officer.
Where did you...
So he literally is YFN. If he spent 6 years over there, he resonates with YFN. If he from their side, right? That's kind of crazy, right? He against YSL in the trial, but he spent 6 years over there with YFN. And when you look at his presentation, it's lopsided, pointing the finger at YSL. That's crazy. Almost like that area is his alma mater, like he holding that part of town down. And then they bonked out the inside of that YSL had. You know YSL BB? Yeah, they got him up out of there. He was playing, he was on the internal for them. They got him up out of there, and the state won't mention him no more. That's just kind of weird. Let me know what you think about that.
You get your first education into the world of criminal street gang activity?
The west side of St. Louis, where I was raised.
Okay.
Could you explain how you got experience from the west side of St. Louis? Could you go into a little bit of context and give us, like, the boundaries of it? Because watch how he conflict his own story right here, y'all. Watch this. He said he got experience with the gangs in St. Louis as, when he was growing up, and then on the west side, you feel me? And you leave for school when you 18, right? So pay attention to this timeline he give us and let me know where he got this, this understanding of the St. Louis gangs. If, watch, pay attention.
Now, what type of, and when you say that wasn't your first exposure, what type of exposure or education did you have in gangs growing up on the west side of St. Louis?
The neighborhood that I grew up was gang infested, drug infested. And once the movie Colors came out.
So without letting us know the neighborhood that you come from or the gangs that were there, you're just allowed to say it was infested. And then you go to a movie reference. Pay attention. Did you see that little Euro stepped on us real quick? You seen him? Yeah. Yup. Came down, picked up his dribble. Whoop, he traveled.
88 or 89, the entire St. Louis was flooded with gangs. And so at that time,
Sir, how old were you in 88 and 89?
I was probably 10 years old. I had to know about gangs and gang culture and what to wear and what not to wear and where to go and what not to go for survival. And so through early on, I learned what a blood, what a crip, a gangster disciple, and so forth and so on. I learned hand signals and different things like that, a form of nonverbal communication.
Judge, are you going to obligate him to give us examples to prove this knowledge that he's talking about right now? Or is we're going to let this be a one-person internal hearsay session? This is what he told himself. This is a kid's perception of what's going on with gangs that he brought into his adulthood to use as an expert. Wow.
Because somebody could be threatening your life or making a gesture towards you to put you in danger. And so these were things that I had to know for survival.
Now it turned into survival instincts for a kid, helped him acknowledge and determine what the inner workings was of gangs in St. Louis. Yes, sir. This boy's a genius. He's a damn genius. Yup, he wasn't worried about video games, wasn't worried about girls, boys. We still stuck on that one. 88, 89. Holmes is outside in the streets. His little homeboy like, yo, what you doing? He like, nothing. I've been watching these gangs, bro, to keep us safe, bro, because I'm going to be a police when I grow up. So, you feel me? I'm starting now. His homeboy like, damn, cuz, I was going to ask you wanted some of these Doritos or this blow pop right here, because I know you like to suck on these blow pops, boy. You talking about being a police so early, cuz. You serious about your career? Let's just play football. He said, nah, I'm going to play basketball, then I'm going to be a cop. His little homeboy was like, bro, I don't know about you, bro. You talking crazy, but here, take this blow pop.
You ever involved in any gangs?
I play sports. My older siblings wouldn't allow me to be involved in gangs.
Okay.
See? I told you. He wasn't even outside. He had a blow pop.
So when you came to Atlanta, were you at that time aware that there was any gang activity in the city?
Now we just fast forward to Atlanta. Did you see what his gang expertise was just in St. Louis? Did you see that timeline skip? Wow. Wow. Look, we already in Atlanta. That fast. Yup. 88, 89. I peeped the gangs. I was 10. Peeped the gangs. Then my peoples wouldn't let me be in the gangs. Oh. People's like, nah. I watched Colors. And then I was in Atlanta. Did y'all just see that?
of Atlanta?
Not at first. When I first got here, BMF was starting to go down.
What is BMF?
Black Mafia family.
And when you say starting to go down, what do you mean?
I lived off Sydney Markets, and so there was a big billboard off the interstate, exit 8.
These is Detroit boys. And mysteriously, they is connected to St. Louis, too, if you know about the BMF story. That's just...
86, and then on my way to the police academy, there was another big billboard near Turner Field that said, BMF, the world is ours. And my first night in Atlanta, I got introduced to who BMF was. I was at Club Visions, and I seen all these guys popping bottles and so forth and so on. And that's when my education on who BMF.
At what club? What was you doing in the club?
Was. That was the only gang pretty much I was familiar with at first, once I became a patrol.
See, Your Honor, that wasn't even no real gang. Your Honor, that wasn't no real gang. Come on. Now.
Parole officer. It wasn't, you had groups of guys that kind of hung out together, but it probably wasn't until 07, 08, I started seeing stuff that looked like home, gang graffiti, and no.
07. Yo, Atlanta had gangs since the goddamn 60s and 70s, y'all. Let's not even start this. If you want to say neighborhoods, that's groups and breaking law. So like this concept of we didn't see it pop up until dudes start wearing flags or colors or picked up national gang titles that we pre-scripted for them to pick up and sold it to them through media. He just going to ignore that.
On what I already knew. I'm like, what is that doing here in Atlanta? I didn't think gangs was prevalent in Atlanta like that.
And you mentioned BMF. What did that stand for?
Black Mafia family.
Okay. So you mentioned in 07 and 08, you started to see things that looked like home. Mm-hmm. Where were you working during that time?
Zone 5, Atlanta Police Department.
Okay. Did you have responsibility for investigating any of that activity, or did you just observe it?
For myself, I was fascinated with myself. And so I...
Or did you just observe it?
For myself, I was fascinated with myself.
Investigating any of that activity, or did you just observe it?
For myself, I was fascinated with myself.
Investigating any of that activity, or did you just observe it?
For myself, I was fascinated with myself. And
That word don't fit. That is not proper in any sense to use for law enforcement, y'all. For Leo, law enforcement officer, that is never fascinated with what? Explain. Expound on that, young brother. Seriously. Seriously, expound on that, bro.
so I wanted to know if it was real or not, because Atlanta wasn't viewed as a gang city. And so I started doing my own kind of homework. And
yo, who you know moved to a city, see the ramifications? Nah, hold on. See examples of signs of gang activity, right? And you think to yourself, I want to know if it's real. What gave you the impression that it wasn't? He messed up. You ain't, what? Is it real? You just told us that you've seen signs of it.
getting to educate myself. I had an interaction with an individual who enlightened me about a gang operating within my beat, Bird Gang. And as
Somebody had to tell you about an active gang in your beat. Imagine that, y'all. Yeah, we chopping him up right now. Yeah, we chopping him up right now. He dropping balls. Every time he touch it, they might as well not even throw it his way. They might as well not even throw it his way. Every time they throw it, he ain't caught a pass this evening. He ain't caught a pass this evening. I'm on him. I'm on him, y'all. Yes, I got him on quad time right now.
he enlightened me on Bird Gang, he would give he basically was in custody. And
A gang in your beat that you couldn't see.
as we talked, he would give a nickname, and I basically created a beat book.
Off of one of the people that was giving you information about a gang you couldn't see, and then you started a book based upon this person's knowledge, true or false?
Identifying individuals that was associated with this specific gang. That became my everyday. When I would go on a call or other people would have interaction with them, I basically cataloged them long before I even knew about a gang unit.
You cataloged normal civilians as gang members before you were in a gang unit on your regular beat. What?
Or anything. I became a source of information for the detectives. Or if there was a robbery or something, they would reach out, hey, talk to Dennis. He's got a beat book with individuals documented in there with different tattoos, different whatever. Eventually, fast forward to, I think, 09 or 2010, Chris Markel Bennett was kidnapped. And when he was kidnapped, my supervisor had me reach out to the lead detective, Detective Murdoch, who worked homicide missing persons. And when we actually met at the King Center, and when we met,
What's the King Center?
I basically brought my beat book, showed him all my stuff, and was telling him about this gang. And
Was that a federal investigation into the cousin of Donovan Thomas? So you actually were contacted by another agency about the death of another family member of Donovan Thomas. And that was before your gang investigation? Whoa.
looked me in my face and said, you watch too much TV. And of course, at the time, I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm kind of offended. About a week later, he reached back out to me and he said, I want to apologize to you. And I was like, for what? And he said, because everything that you gave was spot on. And if you didn't tell us this, we wouldn't know anything about it. And so at that point, he put me in to go to Apex.
What is Apex?
Apex was the spinoff of Red Dog.
And what was
So you got put into a specific gang unit because allegedly the work you was doing on your beat, stalking civilians.
Red Dog?
Red Dog was basically running every drug dealer out of Georgia created during the crack epidemic to target drug dealers in housing projects and so forth around the city. Okay. I knew what Red Dog was.
Not in other areas, just housing projects? What about the non-housing projects?
Was from Freaknik. Growing up in St. Louis, people that came to Freaknik would talk about the Red Dogs, and they don't play in different.
And you was all ears about that Freaknik. You wanted to see that. You wanted to see the sauce. You wanted to come down and see, yeah, everybody, yeah, let's just get wild. Yeah.
Stuff like that. When I came on Atlanta Police Department, they still were in existence, and but they were subsequently disbanded after the Eagle Raid. Once they were disbanded,
You was upset about that Eagle Raid, wasn't you? Tell the truth. You felt some kind of way. You almost stopped being the police when that Eagle Raid happened, wasn't you? Tell the truth. Tell the truth. Tell the truth. Tell the truth.
Created Apex. Apex would be similar, but they would have an investigative arm. And so Detective Murdoch actually put my name in to go to Apex. I usually worked by myself, so I wasn't used to working with other officers and things like that.
Yeah. You was in a special unit by yourself.
Like that. So when he initially said it, I was kind of standoffish to it.
Mm-hmm. So, but did you become involved in Apex? Did you work?
I actually got reassigned to Apex for 6 weeks.
Okay. And what were your responsibilities while you were assigned to Apex?
You was only there for 6 weeks. What happened?
Target criminal enterprises and try to see if I can build cases. But I wasn't.
Criminal enterprise. Whoa, 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 whoa. You got put in the Apex to target criminal enterprises. What criminal enterprise?
There long enough to really. criminal enterprises and try to see if I can build cases. But I wasn't there long enough to really do anything.
Okay.
He was waiting to exhale about that?
Now, from Apex, is that when you went into the gang unit?
No. So 6.5 years on patrol, got assigned to Apex for 6 weeks. Then I made detective. And from detective, I got assigned to Zone 6 Criminal Investigations Division. At that time, they did a realignment of the city. So parts of Zone 6 became, some of the old Fourth Ward became part of Zone 6. And so basically where I worked patrol became now where I was a detective also. And so when I made detective, started off working burglaries and simple thefts, fraud, stuff like that. And then eventually I became one of the robbery carjacking detectives.
What kind of relationships did you form within the community as a beat cop and later as a detective?
As a cop, the community is key to what you do because the relationships that you form helps you do your job at the end of the day. As a cop, I'm only there for 40 hours a week, and the streets talk, and you have to know how to receive it. And so for myself, I knew everybody. I knew every elderly lady, every homeless person. I knew the store owners. I knew the dope boys that stood on the corner because working Boulevard, it was very different. People think Boulevard was just one set, and what you later found out was it was people from all over the city that came to the area because of the females. Bedford Pines is probably the last standing housing project in the city. And through Section 8 housing, they would provide housing for the females who had a child. And so you would see guys that come from all over the city, or we would have different interactions for whatever reason in that area.
Did you ever receive any formal training on criminal street gangs during your time with the Atlanta Police Department?
Yes, that's what Exhibit 2B pretty much is.
All right. Would you tell the court, just for the record to reflect it, what some of that formal training entailed?
The first course, street gang identification and awareness. I took that in July of 2013.
What did that entail?
How to identify gang members and being aware of trends, clothing, and so forth.
Okay. And how many hours was that class?
8 hours.
Okay. And that was given by the Georgia Public Safety?
Correct.
Okay. And going back to the Peace Officer Standards and Training Council post-certification, did you have that during your time as a law enforcement officer in Georgia?
Yes.
And are you currently certified as a law enforcement agent now?
Yes, I'm post-certified in Missouri.
Okay. What other classes have you taken, formal or informal, on gang?
Exhibit 2B basically illustrates we in our gang unit, I basically tried to take any gang training that was offered while still trying to work and do my job. And so anytime gang classes were offered, if we can attend, we would. We would also attend other training with other departments. We would have monthly gang meetings with other gang units in other jurisdictions. We shared information. A lot of the times, a lot of our gang members in Atlanta migrated to other jurisdictions. And so a lot of times we became help to them to help them with their cases more so than them helping us.
So the gang intelligence course listed on State's Exhibit 2B that you received with the Gwinnett Police Department in February of 2016 for 2 hours, what was that?
Basically, information sharing on gangs in the metro area.
And what kind of information was shared?
What type of crimes that they were dealing with that might be reflective to what we were dealing with in the city. A lot of the times, like I said previously, our gang members would migrate to Gwinnett, DeKalb, Cobb, and so forth. And so we would pretty much have an up on them because we were faced with it before they were.
And what about the GGIA basic gang class for 8 hours that you took in 2018? Is
8 hours?
GGIA Georgia Gang Investigators Association?
Yes. And so the chief of Morrow Police, he since passed away. They would put on pretty much an annual basic gang class, and that was to help educate gang investigators on some of the same things, gang trends and different things like that.
Do we have video evidence of this? Surely they videotaped it so we can see the criteria of it and watch it in its totality. I mean, we've been here all these hours. Surely we could have seen an 8-hour video of, what the gang experts go through, since it's been mentioned so many times, right? It should have been introduced into evidence. Wow.
What about the violent crime
Let me know in the comments.
investigations class that you had with ATF in 2018 for 5 hours? What was that?
That was similar, going over violent crime investigations. Being a task force officer, I was basically...
So that's 13 hours total. We got one 8-hour video and we got one 5-hour. We had 13. This is less than the interrogation we watched, so surely we should have been able to see this.
Basically, a case could be, my focus was guns, gang members that were arrested with guns. And then it would be my job to look at their criminal history to see if they were basically candidates for federal prosecution.
Okay.
Yo, we should be able to get this footage. I mean, they did it with the taxpayers' dollars, right?
The California National Gang Violence Conference, what was that in 2018?
Every year they put on a national conference in California. Gang detectives from all over the country, all over the world, basically gather in California to go over gangs. It's information sharing.
Do you practice transparency with the public? With the people that pay the tax dollars? Just asking for a friend.
Different departments have dealt with different type of investigations, and you basically learn from those who've done it before you. You share information, and also we share information. I think I actually presented at that conference.
Okay. What about gangs, hip hop and gangs in 2019 with South Fulton Police for 3 hours? What was that?
I basically made a gang presentation about
19. Okay. What about gangs, hip hop and gangs in 2019 with
what? You went to a conference named Hip Hop and Gangs in 2019.
South Fulton Police for 3 hours. What was that?
With South Fulton Police?
Hip hop and gangs in 2019 with South Fulton Police for 3 hours. What was that?
I basically made a gang presentation about hip hop and gang culture. And I basically used movies, music, and some of the things that...
You made the presentation. So this what the judge is saying that he clarified on. Because he made a presentation and presented it. He is official? Oh, man. I know that ain't the part they're using to say he official. Oh, man.
For 3 hours. What was that?
I basically made a gang presentation about hip hop and gang culture. And I basically used movies, music, and some of the things that we have in regular people look at and don't even know that they're being pretty much spoon-fed gang culture.
Movies and music are things that are written to be over the top to target markets with entertaining ideas that are, what would you say, exaggerated. True?
I think Boys in the Hood, Minister Society, Juice, all those different movies that I grew up watching that are prominent in black culture, I basically explain the gang nexus to the movie. Even with Boys in the Hood, when I saw Boys in the Hood as a teenager, we stood up and clapped at the end when Doughboy got revenge for Ricky.
So you telling us you used a movie reference from 30 years ago to give you an perspective on the way gang lyrics are used, but that movie was actually written and produced at a time period where gang lyrics weren't involved in the music industry. So are you going to talk and tell us about how it was people who weren't involved in gangs who was giving us the image of gangsters? You're not going to talk about that?
Knowing that was gang retaliation.
Did you watch CB4? It came out slightly after. Did you include that into your research? CB4. You know Chris Tucker, the one with the fake slap on the stage with Will Smith? You ain't what?
So how many gang investigations have you either led or been a part of during your time as a law enforcement officer?
I lost count. Honestly, 50 to 100 or more.
Okay. And during that time, you said that you have interacted with either known gang members or alleged gang members. How many of those interactions have taken place, either formally or informally, during your time as a law enforcement officer?
Hundreds.
Hundreds?
Hundreds.
The information that you received from formal or informal confidential informants or from formal or informal interviews with gang members or alleged gang members, did you always take the information at face value, or did you do anything to try and corroborate or...
Every piece of information that we receive, we have to corroborate and do our own due diligence to investigate it. For me, myself, the worst thing I wanted to do was charge or do something to someone that didn't do anything. And so any information that I receive from, it could be a baby mama or the elderly lady on the corner or a gang member, I'm going to look into it to see if it's relevant or to try to understand what they're telling me. I can't necessarily take anything on face value because in the law enforcement and gang culture, most people know that talking to law enforcement can be a death sentence. And so me knowing that,
If that's the case, y'all sure did put a lot of people's life on the line by interrogating them and then turning the footage over. And then that makes Quinn and Velasquez even more bad, because even when people didn't want to be notified, giving info and they wanted to be anonymous, Quinn and them, made them unanonymous. Yeah, so it's like, if you knew that giving up information put people's lives in danger, you sure did step it up and help people's lives get in danger. I mean, y'all talked to so many people and recorded it, and depended on these conversations to support what you were taking to get convictions. So you really didn't care about life too much. You really didn't.
Trying to protect people's identity and respect that I have a job to do to not only listen to them, but to try to protect them with the information that they're providing to me. Working as a patrol officer, I've built.
And that's why they retired, y'all, because they did not protect anybody. They purposely threw them people under the bus. Tell me I'm lying. Now we here 9 years later, and we see what happened with all them interrogation for it. Look how it's playing out. So you tell me what he did.
Countless relationships.
He ruined a whole bunch of people's lives.
With people from the community. I've been gone almost 4 years. I still get calls from the community because people don't know that I'm either gone or I've built a trust factor with them where they feel comfortable in providing information to me.
And what is Clippers and Cops?
Clippers and Cops is a nonprofit that I created in an effort to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community.
In barbershops, so you could get information and intel in spots where people slip up and give intel that could lead to prosecutions and investigations where you couldn't fill in the blanks and put pieces together. And you also could run across people that you wouldn't normally see, because even those people need to get a shape up or a haircut. You think you slick. Just like Quinn worked in the mall. I land my plane.
Trying to create.
Or working at the Atlanta Hawks game. Sorry.
Empathy between law enforcement and the community. When I would go get my haircut, everybody was equal. And when we were in the barbershop, we would talk about everything under the sun. So I felt, why can't we?
Or like an elementary school. My bad, a middle school. Yeah. It's weird, right? The key investigators working at spots in the community outside of their police job in a different capacity, acting like they cool. Huh?
We talk about citizen and police engagement. And so in March of 2018, we went to the same barbershop on Edgewood, and I basically gathered not only law enforcement, I gathered people from the community, gang members, whomever, and we engaged in conversation. And we basically been doing the same thing every third Thursday of the month ever since.
Every third Thursday of the month ever since. Can we get footage of those? Y'all should be transparent with that too, right? Can we get video? Y'all stream it?
Do you also do consultant work? I
do.
And would you explain?
Do you get grants and loans for that? Like, how is that funded? How y'all, and could we see the books? Where the money going?
What that is?
Basically, I do gang consulting work on, liability cases. So, for example, if someone is shot and killed at an apartment complex or a gas station.
So you help corporations get out of paying families where someone was hurt by defending them and blaming it on gang activity, which means they don't have to pay out. So you're actually crippling the people in the inner cities that live in communities where the apartment complexes don't properly keep the security where it needs to be in impoverished neighborhoods. So therefore, gang activity is prominent and prevalent. And then you turn around and help them not pay out the payment for the insurance for getting harmed on their property, for having these ran down apartments. That's what you did. Oh, man, you ought to be ashamed of yourself.
A lot of times they will sue the property. And so
kill him.
I will be hired to explain the gang evidence or the gang nexus in the case.
Have you ever been sworn in as a gang expert in Fulton County?
Yes.
Do you know how many times?
At least 10.
Okay. And are you a member of any law enforcement organizations?
I'm a member of Noble. Now,
just to let y'all know, he could be helping the people, y'all. Yes, he could be actually helping the families of the victims prove that because of the gang activity is only because it's a neighborhood that doesn't have proper security, and he could go into explaining how certain security measures could actually help these very things. Yup, but he chose not to. He chose to go to the money side. Yeah.
National Organization of Black Law Enforcement.
Okay. Have you received any awards or recognition for your law enforcement service?
I probably left Atlanta Police Department as one of the most decorated officers that ever came through the department. And I did 16 years. Most officers do 30.
Did you have an occasion to gain any familiarity with the gang known as IF gang, IF?
Inglewood Family Bloods, yes.
Would you explain how it is that you gained familiarity with that particular gang?
The Inglewood Family Bloods is a California-based criminal street gang that has ties to Atlanta.
Could you explain the ties, please? The chain of command and the structure and how they coexist, you know, and how they relate to each other. Could you explain?
Through 3 of our hybrid gangs, Atlanta Blood Gang, ABG, Bird Gang, which operated in my beat, and Haiti Gang. Those 3 gangs basically merged to make one big gang under the traditional umbrella, which would be...
And they all still exist right now?
IF Gang, IF, or Inglewood Family Bloods.
Did you first learn about that particular gang during your time as a law enforcement officer?
Yes.
Was it during your time as a beat officer or as an investigator?
Both.
Okay.
So you was working in the zone with IF gang before you became a gang investigator. You was a beat cop. Okay.
I initially came in contact with Bird Gang, and it's Bird.
When somebody put you on the Bird gang, but you was working the beat and couldn't see them, someone put you on to Bird gang while you was already working the beat. And then they had to tell you that this gang existed. True or false? You did just testify to that, right? Please. I don't want you to get, impeached. So you did just testify to you was working this beat and didn't know that Bird gang existed in your beat until someone told you, right?
Gang basically had a stronghold on Edgewood, Auburn, and Fort Street in the drug trade. And with them having that stronghold, they were...
Could you explain the drug trade? Because they look pretty broke. Like they ain't have a dime to just serve the one thing. Seriously. They ain't have an 8-ball. Wasn't an 8-ball in arm's reach. Wasn't an 8-ball in arm's reach. So could you please explain this drug activity?
The beat book that I spoke about.
Okay. Did you have any involvement in the investigation of the case involving the murder of Donovan Thomas?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you have an active involvement in the investigation of crimes that occurred during the year 2015 forward?
Myself and my partner was pretty much the lead detectives on the case.
Okay. And when you say lead detectives on the case, did you have an opportunity to interact with suspects and witnesses in any of the cases that occurred during 2015 that occurred after the murder of Donovan Thomas?
Yes, ma'am.
Did that investigation include investigation into an organization known as YSL?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you had an opportunity to interview alleged YSL criminal street gang members?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know how many?
Several that's in this courtroom and several that was charged throughout this investigation, yes.
Are you able to explain to the court whether the information that you attained about YSL and Inglewood Family Bloods, what were the sources of the information that you currently hold about those organizations?
The information that I gained associated with the information I already knew. Basically, when Donovan Thomas was assassinated on January 10th, 2015.
Objection, Your Honor. Assassinated. They didn't solve the case. We don't know who did it. So speculating that it was an assassination, I think without full proof of what exactly happened and who done it and what was the real motive, I don't think you could even use the word assassination. I think that has a pretty specific type of definition that alludes to murder with a certain criteria with it, right? I don't know for sure, but it just feels like it. Feels a little bit probative, if you will. I might be wrong.
I was off. It was a Saturday night. One of our detectives that was working basically reached out and said, "Hey, you put Donovan Thomas into our gang files. What do you know about him?" And
So what did you previously know about him? Was he working? I mean, you said you investigated his family member some odd years ago in 2008 or 9, you said, when he was kidnapped in Hamid. So what made these people reach out to you because you put Donovan Thomas in the gang file? So tell us more.
politely told him to go to my bottom drawer and get my black beat book. Once he got my beat book, he basically had Donovan's profile, Bird Gang's information, and so forth.
Why wasn't it in a system? Why was it in a book? You didn't have all this information typed into a computer file system? You had it in a paperback book? Or did it have a leather cover?
Fast forward to that Monday when I got to work, my supervisor basically said, "What do you know about Bird Gang?" I said, "What do you want to know?" He said, "Well, we have a meeting with every federal agency in the city at 2
Why did you have a federal meeting about Donovan Thomas?
o'clock. I need you to create a war room." And Operation Planners was born.
Can anyone explain this? All these homicides allegedly. Why could this one guy cause for these guys to have a specific meeting and start a whole portfolio based upon this guy's homicide? Or was it really just a precursor to cook up a fake RICO? Real rap, y'all. It don't even make sense, and they telling on themselves. Because have you seen anything before or after similar? Somebody's murder, and it turns into a whole case because we was focused on this guy and how, that's actually disrespectful to all of the people that lost somebody else. Why we ain't get that type of attention? Real rap. So they treating Donovan Thomas like he's some little white girl. Real rap, y'all. Seriously, Donovan Thomas is John Benet Ramsey. Yup. Donovan Thomas is John Benet Ramsey.
From that, I had to basically compile who Bird Gang was, who the rival of Bird Gang was, which was YSL, Young Slime Life, and identify those that would be either targeted or suspects in his murder.
So let me talk about how you gained the information that you then utilized during the course of those investigations and gained through those investigations. Was any of the information that you gained during that time the result of things like cellular phone extractions or jail calls? Could you explain to the court how that aided in your attaining knowledge and information on these particular groups?
In investigating this case, we basically were dealing with an all-out.
Mind you, they alluded to not getting something stepped on before he was taken out of here. Yeah, I don't know if y'all been paying attention to the trial, but at some point they alluded to not when Holmes was green lighting. So they alluding to this would causes the anxiety. When the green light come through, dudes allegedly had already gave green lights. And it must have been dudes were successful. I don't know. I'm speculating right now. Yeah. But I say that to say, if Holmes was investigating, why they wasn't on Holmes' heels a little bit more if Holmes was already making moves? Yeah. I mean, in his proof, because he linked to his peoples that already got done like he done. So that mean they would have already been on these people. Oh, this dude, and now they want to, and look, they champion the dude that got smoked, Chris. So if y'all tied in with these dudes that was robbing banks and then he got backdoored because he did something else, the law would have already been on y'all. So that mean the bodies in between ain't get accounted for. So it's looking like nothing might have been telling y'all. Real rap.
War. Every day we were awakened by houses being shot up, people being shot. And so it was our job to mitigate that and stop it. People were arrested. When people were arrested, if they had a cell phone, we would get a search warrant to extract the contents of their cell phone. We would then reach out to whatever social media we could find to try to get their social media contents. If they were in custody and spoke on jail calls, we tried to monitor the jail calls and those interactions as well. People that were taken into custody, we would basically attempt to speak with them. We spoke to family members who were victims. We spoke to witnesses. We spoke to people in the community. We spoke to everybody we could to try to do our due diligence to investigate this case.
And have you done that throughout your time as a law enforcement officer investigating gangs when a crime occurs?
Yes.
And is it always the case that you're speaking with alleged gang members as perpetrators?
We've spoken to both.
Both? What do you mean?
We've spoken to people that are already documented gang members. We have spoken to alleged gang members. We've spoken to people that aren't gang members. We've spoken to their girlfriends, moms, sisters, cousins, whomever.
And are they sometimes victims?
Yes. Right. Usually, my saying was today's suspect is tomorrow's victim.
Okay. Did these sources of information, first of all, do you know how many cellular phone extractions involving gang information and knowledge that you have examined?
I couldn't even put a number on it.
Is it in excess of 50?
Possibly.
Okay. And what about jail calls? Do you know the number of jail calls that you've listened to that have given you insight into gang culture and terminology in?
Countless. This wasn't the only case or big case that we've investigated over the years. Basically, our unit.
Could you explain some of the other cases so we could look into the research done in them to see if you was faulty in those cases as well?
We dealt with our own cases. We dealt with other units' cases. We dealt with other jurisdictions' cases. We assisted countless investigations.
And did that information that you gained from the sources you've named for the court give you insight into criminal street gangs in Atlanta that the general public may have had no knowledge of?
Yes.
And would you explain some instances or examples of that?
A lot of times, individuals that were in custody would basically attempt to talk in slang or things like that. Sometimes you would get slang that you may not be familiar with. And so you might have a relationship with someone in the community or this particular community where the crime occurred to help explain to you what that means. And so sometimes you would have to reach out and say, what does slap mean? Or what does mac and cheese mean? Or the biscuit, get the biscuit out the oven or whatever it was. You would have to go get clarity for someone else to help you understand if you didn't understand the lingo. In gang culture.
Did you document these experiences where someone gave you the combination to the code? You ain't document those? Damn. All right.
Gang culture is constantly changing. And so through social media posts, sometimes you'll look at a social media post and quite not understand what someone's saying. Or sometimes they'll quote a song and change the lyrics, change the lettering. Instead of saying I'm on Cleveland, they might say I'm on Cleveland, or things of that nature. They might, instead of saying bricks with a CK, they might put 2 C's instead. And a lot of times gang members or people associated with gang culture will take the time to do that. And through social media was an attempt to explain or to help share their identity as such.
Now, you mentioned biscuit and mac and cheese. Are these references to food in the situation?
To the common eye, yes. But in gang investigations, they could have meant a number of different things. And so it was our job to decipher it, because sometimes you would read some of the stuff and it wouldn't make sense to you until you talk to someone in that life or in gang, has a gang culture that is able to explain exactly what they mean. Gangs is almost like an unwritten, or a lot of the things that they do could be a nonverbal communication through hand signals. I can almost be flipping you off and you not even know it in common. Or I might say something to you, like I might wet you up. And to you might be thinking, I don't need a bath.
You got to water.
But if I said that to someone in gang culture, they know exactly what I'm saying. I'm going to wetting someone up can mean I'm going to shoot you, and that's the blood wetting your shirt. This is a lawn crime. And so those are things that we had to explain to help it make sense.
And did you hear those sort of phrases and terminology while you were an investigator with the gang unit with the Atlanta Police Department? I'm going to show you what has already been admitted previously as State Exhibit number 3. Now, when exactly did you leave the Atlanta Police Department?
August 10th of 20.
Okay. So State's Exhibit 3, having an effective date of August 13th, 2020, was implemented after you had gone.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you look at...
Gangs were created to stop the oppression being done by the poor civilians in neighborhoods from racist police before blacks were allowed to be police, and outside neighborhoods that wouldn't be prosecuted for crimes done to the poor people if people from outside came in and done violent things to the people in the poor neighborhoods. That's why gangs was created in all poor communities, not only black, just to let you know.
The section numbered 5.3 regarding gang member identification and the criteria used as described in State's Exhibit 3?
Yes.
And would you read for the record what those 6 criteria are?
Gang member identification is based on the following criteria. 1, when an individual admits membership in a gang. 2, when a reliable informant identifies an individual as a gang member. 3, when an informant of previously unattested reliability identifies...
Unattested, meaning no one tested it or tried to see if the credibility of this informant was even valid? Wow.
Individual as a gang member and is corroborated by independent verification. 4, when an individual resides in or frequents a particular gang area and affects their style of dress, use of hand sign symbols,
You'll turn into a real live snake real quick.
or tattoos, and associates with dress, use of hand signs, frequents a particular gang area and affects their style of dress, use of hand signs, symbols, or tattoos, and associate their style of dress, use of hand signs, symbols, or tattoos, and associates with known gang members, use of hand signs, symbols, or tattoos, and associates with known gang members. 5, when an individual has been arrested several times in the company of identified gang members for offenses which are consistent with usual gang activity. 6, when there are strong indications that an individual has a close relationship with the gang but does not fit the above criteria, he should be identified as a gang associate.
Were those 6 criteria in effect at the time you were an investigator with the City of Atlanta Police Department?
Yes.
Okay. And reading section 5.2 regarding gang and criminal street gang and gang-related crime, were those operating procedures in effect at the time that you were with the Atlanta Police Department?
Yes.
Okay. And would you read what they are?
Gang, criminal street gang, any organization, association, or group of 3 or more persons associated in fact, whether formal or informal, which engages in criminal gang activity as defined in OCGA 1615-3. The existence of such organizations, associations, or group of individuals associated in fact may be established by evidence of a common name or common identifying signs, symbols, tattoos, graffitis, or attire, or other distinguished characteristics. Such terms shall not include 3 or more persons associated in fact, whether formal or informal, who are not engaged in criminal gang activity.
And gang-related crime?
Say that again?
The rest of 5.2, gang-related crime.
Oh, I'm sorry. Gang-related crime. Criminal acts that include gang violence or gang retaliations related to turf, protection, signing, recruitment, or any criminal activity such as drug trafficking. Any incident wherein participants, suspects, or victims are identified gang members or associates. When a reliable informant identifies an incident as gang activity, when an informant of previously unattested reliability identifies an incident as gang activity, and it is corroborated by other attendant circumstances or independent verification.
And you said that those were policies that you followed while you were with the gang unit.
Yes, basically we didn't just want to put anybody in as a gang member if they weren't. Okay. And it's not illegal to be in a gang. It's illegal to commit acts of crime while in a gang.
Okay. Now, during your time investigating gangs, how much familiarity did you get with the organization known as Young Slime Life, or YSL?
A lot.
And were those from the sources that you mentioned earlier?
Through sitting through countless interviews, interviewing countless witnesses, gained a lot of knowledge about YSL.
And what about Inglewood Family Bloods? Did you gain a lot of information about that?
Same.
Okay. Did your time with the Atlanta Police Department and the education that you received give you insight into the culture and practices of both those organizations?
Yes.
And based on your background, training, and expertise, do you have an opinion about whether or not YSL, the organization known as Young Slime Life, is in fact a criminal street gang?
No question in my mind that it's a criminal street gang.
Okay.
What? See? Threw him under the bus, y'all. Lack of evidence and totally threw him under the bus. Look at that, y'all.
And do you have an opinion as to whether or not the Inglewood Family Bloods, or IF, is a criminal street gang?
No question in my mind that they're a criminal street gang.
All right. Your Honor, just one moment.
So they won't admit that Young Thug actually separated himself from the streets and disconnected from the real Bloods. And because of that, he was left vulnerable and was attacked. They won't admit to that, y'all. Yeah. See, it's this underlining story that basically the beef was really about who's official and who not. At the end of the day, other little side beefs going on, but the real thing is y'all ain't official. I'm just speculating right now, but they ignoring this, right? Now, Thug's smart enough to know if he go underneath of this big umbrella, he cannot be a boss and he's going to be taxed. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. He's smart enough to know. So look, Holmes jump out on a limb. Say, you know what? I ain't even going to use that. I'm going to go on the strength of I got some crash dummies that's with me that can hold me down long enough to where as though they ain't going to be able to just extort me like that. I'm speculating.
Your Honor, at this time, we tender former investigator Dennis as an expert in the field of criminal street gang recognition, investigations, identification, and practices, as well as specifically the Inglewood family criminal street gang, and the Young Slime Life criminal street gang.
She didn't say music or lyrics or gang relation to music. She ain't specified that just now. So did I find the gap? They lied?
And Your Honor, just to clear that up, we are tendering former investigator Dennis as an expert in criminal street gangs in general, criminal street gang, I did not say culture, practices, investigations, and identification. My apologies to the court, as well as the Inglewood family criminal street gang and the YSL criminal street gang.
She went again and she still ain't put music and entertainment connection to gangs. She dropped the ball again, y'all. She rolled the dice twice. I thought she had me. I thought she heard me. Nope, she dropped the ball twice.
Okay. Start up, Mr. Steele, an examination of white eye witness.
Bro, they really didn't.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Thank you, Your Honor. With regards to your statement a moment ago with the Honorable Prosecutor, you said something to the effect of, it is not illegal to be in a gang. Remember something like that?
I do.
Can you
Yo, if you want to know why you should rock over here with us, this the type of thing we be doing. Just on the low, you never know when we might really go in and stumble upon something that's technically, I think I'm right with that. They did not clarify him as having nothing to do with being an expert with music just now, and we just listened to the whole thing. We just listened to the whole thing, and that's what I came for, y'all. I said, let me go listen into it in totality, because I don't remember them saying nothing about that, but probably did. Man, they briefed upon music, but look, she barely brushed on it, and she didn't clarify at the end that that's what they was they was booking them in for. Real rap. According to what she presented at the end when she stamped what I'm using them for, she did not say nothing about the music, baby.
explain specifically what you're referring to?
The Boy Scouts could be considered a gang because it's 3 or more people operating when they put on the same outfit. The police department can be considered a gang by the definition.
True.
It's only illegal to be associated with such when committing a crime or breaking the law. That's what I mean.
What if somebody in the Boy Scouts or the police department, there's a section of 3 or more people associated, in fact, either as a member or an associate, and 5 of those people are going out committing drive-by shootings. Mm-hmm. But the other 2,000 people are in the Boy Scouts or the police department, same uniform, mm-hmm. but they're not doing those crimes. How does that work in your mind?
The association of how did they associate?
So Derek Chauvin had 2 other police with him. He got locked up for committing criminal activity. He had 2 people that was with him, so you could say they were accomplices. So do we have a RICO for that police? What? We want to do the whole state or the whole city or just that district or just that precinct? How you want to do it? How you want to do it?
The Boy Scouts could be basically used as their association, but the enterprise in itself hasn't necessarily.
Oh, speaking of the Boy Scouts, we got a case where the Boy Scouts was proven to be doing some pretty fraudulent things, while out camping and stuff like this, right? Now, they did all wear, uniforms, and they had symbols and they had rank. So I don't remember the RICO though.
They broke the law. Those individuals use that association to break the law, and so those are the like characteristics of that.
So
I got another one. Well, it was a sorority, a fraternity in Missouri, where they were warned they were breaking all types of laws, breaking college rules, campus rules, all types of things, right? They were on basically like some form of probation for breaking these rules, and then they basically broke the rules so far that a guy got paralyzed. Yeah. Now, they weren't charged for RICO, but it was a group of guys who all went underneath of the same symbol, and it was initiation and rituals being done.
Demarcation, and I'm asking you, I'm not telling you. I want your information to qualify under Daubert. There's a demarcation about the people in.
Oh, they got structure and furtherance too, and they gaining. Yup.
The Boy Scouts or the police department, same uniform, same haircut, same radios, same guns, but the 5 people, I think I said 5 people who are using those symbols to go out and commit crime, they would be separate than the rest of the thousands of people. Is that what you say? Or
what I'm saying is,
or does it make an entire gang? That's what
it would not necessarily make the entire gang unless we could prove that in previous the police department or the Boy Scouts were associated with those same criminal activities previously. If they're not, it's just like saying, I'm trying to think of something to a fraternity, right? Let's say 5 members of a fraternity participated in a rape. Does that make the whole fraternity a criminal street gang? No. It makes members of that fraternity that participated in that.
So what if they all chant on campus, on video, that no means yes, and yes means something so flagrant I won't say it? This is a chant known by a group of a fraternity, and it's been videotaped with them all saying it. So when one of them commits this heinous crime that you just mentioned, could they all be charged with RICO then? I mean, y'all have presented information in this case, evidence, right, that says that by someone being with someone while they're saying something or doing something means they adopt that, right? So can we present that same, idea when we looking at some of these fraternities and the crimes committed while others are around and amongst them and they cheer on? Seriously, brother, you are dropping the ball. No pun.
Crime. And the association could be the fact that they're in that fraternity, but it doesn't necessarily make that fraternity a criminal street gang. The reason being is it has no bearing associated with any other crime previously.
So the other members of the fraternity, it's the same thing, but fraternity rather than Boy Scouts or police department. The other members of the fraternity who did not commit that rape, God forbid, they are not tainted.
Correct.
What I hear you say.
That is correct.
So even though the organization or the fraternity have a portion of them involved potentially in criminal street gang activity, the other people that did not commit that, in your example, God, with the rape, they're not tainted by what you imagine the law is. Is that right?
That's correct. And the reason
So by your definition, anybody at the top of a YSL pyramid, being as though there's no linkage from the bottom to the top, any of them have enough separation and not actually be incriminated with the criminal activity of anybody at the bottom that's doing it for self? Uh-oh.
Say that is, for example, I think, let's use the Duke lacrosse situation where I think a female was raped or something. The entire fraternity wasn't necessarily charged, the individuals that were involved with the rape, but the common denominator was they were a part of this fraternity. And so that played a part in how did all of you guys get together?
Okay.
Because this was a part of the structure and this was a part of game. Using our power and leverage to get over on victims of crimes so we therefore could have our way, which is part of the structure, and we keep secrets to withhold those crimes. And it's in furtherance because we recruit new members based upon what we can get away with, which is in furtherance of, the members. Thank you.
I think I understand the demarcation. Just to take it a step further, the Duke lacrosse. I keep just following your examples, but I think they're all the same. But Duke lacrosse. What if members of that team who were not involved in that supposed rape, God forbid, but they knew about the allegation, they knew about their teammates, they spoke about it with other people, they did not speak with the police. Are they now part of the gang?
They still are part of that fraternity, and I think that they would receive scrutiny from the public as if they were a part of that rape because they are associated with that fraternity who's now associated with that rape.
So you agree Young Thug is receiving scrutiny because he grew up with certain people, but he's a part of a community of musicians now, and he's not actually been proven to be a criminal in the streets and part of a gang that operates on the streets of Atlanta. So therefore, he's receiving scrutiny that's unfair, similar to some of the other players on this lacrosse team you speak of. True.
But it's not illegal the way I understand you saying. I'm not excluding my understanding.
Right.
I'm just using yours. But it's not illegal to be part of that lacrosse team is what you went back to.
It's not.
It's just a taint for people who are associating, in fact, 3 or more who can then commit the specified criminal activity.
Yes.
That's what I hear you say.
Yes.
But the other people who are on the team, they're not involved in the criminal activity in your mind.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I'm going to ask you about a couple people, if that's okay.
Hey, yo, how many people that's a part of the YSL record label aren't charged in the indictment? So the record label has real musicians signed. And me looking at the album cover and the different music that they put out as a record label, I see that they got a slew of artists actually signed to YSL. So we just disregarding them and they aren't gang members? So I'm asking, if you got more people that signed to a record label that's actually not gang members, and then you have a couple people that's being attached as criminals and a part of a gang that shares the same name as the record label, which one is real? The numbers say that the record label is more prominent than gang activity under the branch of YSL, technically.
If you don't remember, you need something to refresh your memory, just let us know, okay? Who is Donovan Thomas?
Donovan Thomas is Peanut, Big Nut. He was a member of Inglewood Family Bloods, also a member of...
All right, and I'm going to object into getting deep into the specifics of this particular case and who particular people are. In this case, as it does not bear directly on this witness's qualifications as an expert.
Oh, so him speaking on Donovan Thomas at this moment with Brian Steele he's not an expert on that? Did she just say that? Did she just say that that boy is not an expert on speaking on Donovan Thomas? And his what? What?
It was specifically discussed in direct who is Donovan Thomas, and it was specifically proffered that he's part of...
Yo, that boy did a whole PDF based upon that boy. How could he? What?
Through the testimony, part of IF gang, and this court is being asked to qualify the Honorable Detective, or former Detective Dennis, in an expert of the IF gang. I'm asking about the same thing.
Go ahead.
Yes, Your Honor.
Can I say something real fast? When y'all keep saying former detective, I'm retired. I left in good standing. I didn't get kicked out or anything of the sort. For the record, let's just say that, okay? Thank you.
Clear about that now?
I did not use the word former.
Thank you.
And if anyone else used the word former, I'm not using
Thank you. No, y'all just kept saying it, and it's like when you say it, it make it seem like I didn't leave in good standing or something happened for me to leave. I left on my own terms. And I'm retired. Okay.
I don't think former means
Potato.
but we're going to call it...
What?
We're going to call it retired.
All right.
Boy.
So I apologize.
Boy.
Do you remember the question?
Who was Donovan Thomas?
Yeah.
Donovan Thomas, Peanut, was a member of If Gang as well as Bird Gang. I think I had my first interaction with Donovan Thomas when I first became a patrol officer.
Oh, you known him for a long time. What year you said you started that beat? 05? You known that boy since 05? Hold up. My math right, y'all? That boy say he worked that beat for 6 years. Say he became something else and what? Hold up. Hold up.
2005.
Whoa, I was right. Whoa. Whoa. My math was right. Whoa.
Their gang, Bird Gang.
And Your Honor, again, the specifics, I would object to specific information being elicited. The question has been answered, and beyond that, I would object to us getting deep into the details of any particular cases.
But you did ask me about it, so you opened the door about that in terms of qualification. So, but I remind Mr. Steele, this may be more subject or appropriate for us to, if I qualify him as expert, okay?
Yeah, I just
Holding on that boy for 10 years, y'all, before he got smoked. That's crazy. 10 years. He watched that boy grow from a boy to a man. Boys to men. And went to the end of the road. Man, stop playing, boy.
I have an understanding, and I thought you overruled the objection. So unless I'm mistaken,
I think he's answered the question at this point in time.
he did. Not really.
Twice.
No, he said he gave it nicknames.
Okay, but that's how he knows him, so.
I know him. Oh, I'm sorry.
Your Honor, I'd like some leeway. This is what you are qualifying the gentleman, and he's the named victim in our case.
I give you some leeway.
What would you like to know?
Just give the background that you know. I understand that you met him, I believe,
2005.
and then you were saying that he was a member. I don't think you said this, so clarify this. He was a member at that time of the Bird Gang, but I don't think you said that. So
He was a member of Bird Gang as I knew it. He also was a high-ranking member of Inglewood Family Bloods as I knew it.
okay. And when you say high-ranking member, we talking about the highest, second highest?
I think he was second or third in command.
Okay. And at what time in relation to the second or third in command of the IF gang?
What do you mean?
What year? Are we talking about the whole time, or are we talking about January 10th?
There was a point where a gentleman by the name of Williams basically flew to California and helped get the blessings from California to operate here in Atlanta as Inglewood Family Bloods.
Yo, why they changed it when they spoke about it in the trial and they don't mention. So when the trial comes, he didn't mention that part right there. And he also didn't mention the fact that he was told to do this investigation into Donovan Thomas. So he actually subtracted things out of his testimony. Real rap. Seriously. So that Williams part and him flying to California, they took all that out of what he said during the trial. I promise you, y'all.
By doing that, Atlanta Blood Gang, which is ABG, Bird Gang, and then Haiti Gang are three different hybrid gangs that basically merged together to become one big gang under the traditional umbrella of Inglewood Family Bloods.
Are they all have roots in the Blood Gang?
Yes.
And with Mr. Thomas being, you said second or third in command, or?
Hey, yo, so if Inglewood went over the West Coast to get official and they comprised of other blood gangs, where did the other blood gangs go to get their lineage and, to become official? You get it? It's comprised of three gangs. One of these gangs picked up a set from the West Coast and went over there and hollered at these people. So they official. Did the other two groups go in the holler?
Did I miss that?
Yes, I did.
My question is, was that the entire time, or did that rise to power over?
That part I don't know.
How about we ask it the other way? On January 10th, 2015, was that his position?
Yes.
As far as you knew?
Yes.
Okay. And what type of crimes is IF gang committing?
Drug dealing, shootings, robbing, so forth. They basically had a stronghold on Summerhill, Old Fourth Ward, or anywhere where they operated. They pretty much had a stronghold on it.
And you said on your direct examination today to have you qualified, I believe, that IF gang and YSL.
Yo, strongholds in parts of the city, in major cities, mean you're making a lot of money. Means either the feds coming. Ain't no either the feds coming. They coming. So we talking about a cycle of these people that got the stronghold. Basically, it's a cycle of, teams going to the feds. And then another team kind of from the same area kind of getting the stronghold, if that's what it is. Well, where are those indictments?
Identified them, in your opinion, as a criminal street gang.
Yes.
Were rivals.
Yes.
I misstated that. I'm not trying to.
Yes.
Okay. What caused them to be rivals? If you
And you said a lot of gang members.
So this is him coming back today.
Detective Dennis, as a gang investigator, did music sometimes come up in your investigations?
Yes.
How did it come up in your investigation?
A lot of rappers participate in gangs.
So as you can see, I just proved that they didn't clarify he was an expert on talking about the connection between music and gangs. We watched the whole, breakdown. Now, whether he was asked that on cross in that Daubert hearing, who knows? But we just watched the whole thing. And Miss Love did not clarify it. Hey, you let me know.